Okay. Good evening. Happy Thursday, everybody. No, Mike shocked me right out of it. Uh,
It's Friday Eve.
That's true.
it is. It
It
is
is
Friday. Love it
Friday.
Friday
Friday.
Eve.
Love it Friday. Ready for the weekend? Ready for a little holiday? Little break? Little takeaway? Right, guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah, always good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Always
there's
good to
there's some break
relax.
from
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah. And speaking of holidays, speaking of breaks, we wanted to kind of start out tonight by coming on here and just trying to I don't know if you want to say clear the air, but try and put out whatever information we have or don't have regarding the Jaws
It's 50.
50th. Yes,
His
yes.
birthday. His birthday. This one right here.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, regarding his birthday. So um,
Regarding Bruce's birthday.
That's right. A quick thing I wanted to mention, there's been a lot of stuff online and on the various fan pages. There is a gentleman named Michael Cochran, whose great grandfather was one of the founders of Universal Studios. And he had proposed to the city of Aquinnah a 10-day event at Aquinnah with the Boston Pops and Richard Dreyfuss, and it's going to be huge. And if anyone's been to Aquinnah, you know that is never going to happen because the only thing there is a lighthouse and a rock. So if you go to the Martha Vineyard Chamber of Commerce, their website, mvy.com, they are listing under events in 2025, they have Jaws 50th. There are no dates. Nothing is set. Nothing has been planned yet. But at least they're saying, yeah, we're going to do something. But I see a lot of people that are posting and, hey, we rented a house for these dates. And, hopefully you pick the right dates, because I don't, places you rent, you can't change the dates. You can't get your money back. On the bright side, you're going to be on the vineyard, but on the darker side, you might have missed everything. So, like I said, keep an eye on this page, on the Jaws 50 page, Amity Jaws Group, Daily Jaws, Jaws Paradise, uh, back in the day, Media Mics. We all talk. We are all a group. Jaws 50 is one page, but it is supported by over 200,000 people. So we will let you know as soon as we hear something. We will let everybody know. It's not like we're sitting on a secret. It's not like we're trying to be negative to people. We're just saying, hey, be sure if you're planning to be there for this event, be sure that you're going to be there for the right days,
Correct.
because the vineyard's expensive.
Yeah.
And it's a great trip. It's good any time of the year you want to go. But if you're planning to go and celebrate the 50th anniversary of Jaws with a million other fans, make sure you know that when we're all going to be there. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
and,
I
and,
mean,
and
it's
just
go
yep.
ahead.
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead, Nick.
Randy. No. I was going to say, and just as a heads up, the reason why we're bringing this to your attention is because what we don't want if you see misinformation or whatever floating around there, you making that mistake. We'd love to spend the time there with you guys. I want to see you guys. A lot of people I want to meet in person, but we don't know when it's happening. I get questions. I know that Mike and Jenny get questions. We don't know yet when it's happening. Nothing official has come out, and until it does, despite what I read or say, unless I see something from Martha's Vineyard Chamber of Commerce and Universal Studios, I'm not looking to see where I'm going to stay at this point. So honestly, we're trying to kind of be preventive and trying to prevent any possible issues with you guys. We want to spend time with you guys and not see someone upset because they missed some of these things. So.
Yeah, we kind of don't want to have anybody miss out on anything good if Universal does this. And I mean, you're more than welcome to go to the island. Like Michael says, it's a great place to go, regardless
Beautiful.
well, it goes through a snowstorm. But anyway, anytime that you want to go, it's a great place to visit. There are Jaws tours there. There's plenty of sites that you can see on your own, but we don't want you to miss the big one if you go ahead and not have the correct dates. We want to have a big party to celebrate Bruce's birthday, but we don't want anybody to miss it either. So
Right.
if there's anything, any kind of news that we hear, regardless, we believe us, we will tell you. I have a baby that's willing to go. She's ready to go. She's only 9 months. She's ready to go with Aunt Janie. So
She's asking.
She's asking.
Yeah.
She wore her shirt yesterday, Uncle Mikey. So
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, my grandson's 2 months old. He was asking me the other day.
We're ready to go. And as soon as we get the dates, please,
because I would, if I had to venture a guess, nothing will be announced until the fall. If it's earlier, that's great. But you have to understand, just like Amity, Martha's Vineyard is a summer town, and they do their business summer to summer. So they're not going to, and a lot of places they won't book place more than a year out. So,
Right.
The people that have gotten houses, good for you. Because a lot of agents, they wait to see, number one, how much they're going to charge, because certain times of the year, the price goes up. So, like I said, we don't want to dissuade you from going to the island. We want to see everybody there, but just, be aware, check like I said, check the Chamber of Commerce website, check the Jaws 50 page, check the Daily Jaws, check Amity Jaws Group, check Jaws Paradise. We all talk. Keith's Jaws page. He's got 56,000 people. So we will know. We will know. We are in constant contact with the people that you want to see there. So they'll
absolutely.
As soon as they know, they'll tell us. Even if the chamber doesn't tell us, Jeff Kramer will text me and say, "Hey, you're going to be there on so-and-so date?" So, yes. So, there we go. Public service announcement has been made.
Announcement. That's right. And it's for the better good. It's for the better good and for a better time, because we want to have a good time.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So, public service announcement.
But I'm ready. Speaking of Amity, I'm ready to take a tour. I'm ready to take a tour.
I'm ready to take a tour. Never been on tour. And as promised tonight, guys.
Really?
Never been on tour. Nope. Tried. Even tried to show up afterwards to get stuff, and damn, that Harry Potter ride was there. Didn't do it. Anyway. So tonight we're going to be talking about the Jaws ride, which it can be as iconic as any other thing Jaws related. And to help us out with the Jaws ride, since, 2/3 of us never had a chance to experience that, we have someone here with us tonight who not only has been on the Jaws ride, actually was one of the skippers on the Jaws ride for quite a few years. And that is Mr. Jeff Clay. So we're going to bring in Mr. Jeff Clay. So let's bring him up on stage.
All righty, let's go.
Hey, guys.
Hey, how are you doing?
I got the background ready. I even wore my old uniform. Not that this is one of the originals, but you can buy these in the park. Yeah. I don't know if they're still selling them. I know I walked in. There's one of the stores that's kind of like switches themes all the time, has a little special, and I walked in there with my son one day. I'm like, holy crap, that is the shirt I wore on the ride. So it's almost the same, little slightly different tint, but otherwise it's pretty similar.
Now, Jeff, do we address you as captain?
If you must, that's just fine.
That's protocol. Little protocol here.
Yep. I was there from before the park opened until I was there. Jaws was about a year before they finally shut it down. And I was a lead. So then I was kind of a roving lead to all the rides. So, which was the best of all the worlds, because I got to work every ride kind of wherever they needed me that day. And then the last year I did Kong. So I was at Kong for a year too.
Aww.
I think I sent you the picture. I'm actually on the postcard, the old Kong postcard. We did like a night photo shoot for it. And I was the driver. So if you look at I have one, I can always message it to you. But if you look at the postcard, that's me driving the train.
I think
I don't
I
think
think
I
you
have
sent it
that.
to me.
There I am. I'll send it
But
to you.
I've got this great shot of you.
Look at
buddy.
that.
That was
I
me.
had to pull this up. That is such an awesome shot of you standing there. You got your game face on. You and Bruce hanging out. So very cool. So
That's the original shark, because we went through a couple. Also, that one, it was still pretty new when that picture was taken, and it very quickly lost all its teeth because people came to take pictures and would just like pull pieces of the teeth off all the time.
souvenirs, I'm sure.
Poor thing.
Souvenir. Absolutely.
Yeah, I sent
So
you the.
Jeff,
like-
where are you in Florida or where?
Yeah, I'm in South Florida. I live in Pembroke Pines. If anyone's familiar, it's kind of near
that's
Hollywood,
where I
Florida,
am.
near the
Yeah.
big guitar. Yeah.
Okay.
And I've been down here for about 3 or 4 years. I lived in Orlando for 3 years when I was working at Universal. But I've kind of moved around. I'm from Baltimore originally, so I'm very happy.
Baltimore.
There you go, Mikey.
When did you live in Baltimore?
My whole life until Universal. So I started Universal. I think I was 23. It was interesting that there was a lot of us were over 21. Like now it's 16 and up. You'll see a bunch of kids working there, but back then I think they wanted the original crew to kind of be available and not only be able to work after school or something like that. So there was a lot of us that were over 21.
What year did you leave Baltimore?
So I am 57.
Oh, you're a baby.
I left Baltimore when I was like 23 to move to Orlando. So 89.
Okay, where'd you live?
I'm from Randallstown.
Okay, you ever go to the Randallstown Theater?
Of course.
I used to manage that.
Oh, did you really? Is
I
that
was
the one
probably
where we were?
managing it while you were there.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah,
Yep, that's like 2 minutes from my house.
yeah.
Done that
It's
way.
famous because John Waters saw one of the movies there. He got bored. And he wrote a bunch of stuff on the back of one of the chairs. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome.
Good. Good.
Yep, good old Randallstown. Small world. Small world.
Yeah. Good to
And
see you,
actually-
hon. How about demos?
I'm so excited for this season to start. I really am. I can't wait. I'm going to. I have a buddy back in Baltimore, so this will be my third year, his second. We go over to Sarasota for a weekend. That's coming up March 8th. So we go over there for a weekend, watch a couple games at the beach a little bit, and chill. Sarasota is beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I moved here in '96 to Kansas City, and I kept my season tickets at Camden Yards through '99 until they got rid of Messina. Then I said,
That was
I'm
sad.
not flying back. I'll see him when he comes here with the Yankees. So,
I miss Mike. He was amazing.
Yeah.
Loved him. But I'm really excited for this year. Orioles have a really, really young team. Plus, my Ravens loss is still stinging really hard. Still in like whatever the third or fourth stage of grief is. I'm still there. I think.
sorry.
Denial.
Sorry. I live in Kansas City now, right?
I know. I have an aunt. I have an aunt and 2 cousins in Kansas City, and we have Facebook wars. And then I got quiet after the game was over. Eerily quiet on Facebook after that. Very sad.
So, getting a couple of comments in here. Number one, quite a few people in here saying hello, Jeff, and thanks
Hey,
for coming
everybody.
on, Jeff. So very cool. And someone's chiming in here saying I was a skipper from 2003 to 2006. So was that the time period when you were there, Jeff, or not? I'm
No,
sorry, I
I
missed when you said you were there.
Much earlier. Yeah, that's the like Jaws 2. I call it when they made the changes, added the explosions and the electric wire at the end and all that. So I was the original. I started in February of 1990, so about 3 months before the park opened. And we were there in hard hats and steel toe boots, walking around. They were still building. Yep, there's the old Jaws ride. They were still building. When we were walking around, they were actually pressing the cobblestone marks into the street in the New York area. So that was kind of cool.
Oh, no kidding. That's pretty cool.
And so because we were the very first, I should send you another. I have another one, the opening day photo of the entire crew. I have it. I'll find it. So we trained on the ride. We couldn't get on the ride just yet, but we worked with the engineers, cycled boats when we needed to, when we had to. And then they kind of trained us on all the rides at once. So we knew everything. And by the way, RIP the Hanna-Barbera ride, because I still think that was the next to Jaws, of course, but that was everybody's favorite ride. Anyway, so we kind of walked around, and then we also had acting lessons. That's the first crew. They actually hired an acting coach to teach us. Yep. And then we had life-saving lessons. So we had to go to the Orlando Aquatic Center, and they threw a brick at the bottom of the pool 14 feet down, because the pits that you see, like the one in the attack scene, which in that picture is on the right, that dark hole, that's 14 feet down, filled with equipment. So I guess we had to be able to show that we could go in there and save somebody or something, if we had to. So we had to dive in and pull a brick off the bottom of a 14-foot pool in order to pass the class.
Oh, wow.
So, and then,
not to interrupt, did you ever have anybody go over the side?
We had one time a person go on the side. I was working that day. I was there.
Oh, were you really?
Yeah, and I want to talk about that lately because I got into a huge YouTube war, because people have all these weird stories about that event that happened. And if you search on YouTube or even just search Google,
Nate and I were talking about that the other way. The other day.
A lot of it's
I did a deep dive on this. Go ahead. Nope, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's all BS. So I was literally the lead on duty, running out to the island where it happened. Could tell you everything that happened, and it was super fast. Nobody got hurt. One guy went in, got wet, and was back on the boat in less than 2 seconds. It was.
Yay, you saved it. Yay.
It wasn't actually
on Facebook. It wasn't 2 seconds, right?
Actually, it's actually very lucky. So first of all. And I wish I could remember his name. It's just been too long. But the boat driver, so the guy in the attack scene, the boat pitches back and forth, side to side, like the shark's dragging it through the water backwards, and it's pitching as we go. And he was on the side, so when it pitched this way, he hit. There's like that thing they lower down once you get in the boat, kind of the big railing.
Safety rail or whatever, right?
Safety rail, yeah. So that has like safety pins. There was little like bobby-looking safety pins in there, and one broke. So he hit it, and that came off. So that opened, and he went right into the water. But the boat driver immediately, like barely a second, saw what happened, heard it, and saw it, and hit the e-stop on the ride. So everything shuts down immediately, and it's really good that it was, because that does happen to be the most dangerous spot in the whole ride, where during the attack scene. But he was right back in. He was just wet. I was literally right there. I actually ran out. If you look at the ride, there's an island in the middle, like where the boathouse scene is and stuff.
Right.
So we can kind of run across that island into that boathouse, so if we can monitor boats and drivers and things like that. Yeah. So I'm trying to look. There's a little, I can't quite see, but there's a little bridge that connects over. It's right by the exit, and then you walk over there. So anyway, you can go in the middle of the island. And so I immediately, as soon as the ride stopped, I was the lead on the day, so I knew something was wrong, and immediately ran out, because we could see which boat stopped. Immediately ran out to the island. The guy was already back up in the boat. So we just pulled it in. They dried him off. Guest services took him and took care of him. Beyond that, I do not know anything about any legal issues that may have happened. I think I've read about lawsuits and things, but I have absolutely no knowledge of that part of it whatsoever.
Wow.
It was crazy. Wow. It was really crazy. Wow.
Jeff, I always try and do some research on something so I can learn a little bit of background on this and that. And I immediately started jumping in. I was trying to get a little bit of background on the Jaws ride, and it immediately went south. But of course, anytime you see anything that has the word wiki or anything like that into it, right away the red flag goes up. But so I'm doing a deep dive, and it says the real reason why the Jaws ride was shut down. And it was mentioning your instance, but apparently that person went over, and then the mechanical shark came in and bit him and broke a leg and punctured a lung, and then two workers who went in got electrocuted, and they didn't find the bodies for days later. Now, no one noticed that they didn't call in to work.
Oh my goodness. I gotta get my foil hat out.
Oh yeah, and there was another death, and I'm going,
No,
come on, really? I mean, Jane and I were back and forth. I sent her the article, and oh my gosh, so yeah, it was. There's a lot of misinformation out there.
yeah,
The
that's
first
why I
thing
wanted
I
to
told-
talk about that. Yeah, because I wanted.
Yeah,
to
the
clear
first
that
thing
up.
I told him was,
Yeah.
it was just like you. It was like, oh no, that's complete BS
It
because
was all
I'm from
BS.
South Florida. Yeah, I'm from South Florida, so I would go to Universal all the time,
Sure.
especially during Mardi Gras season.
Yep.
Jaws was the first ride we'd go on. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, if that would have happened, you would have seen helicopters, yellow tape, the cops would have been there, there wouldn't have been an investigation. So
I
yeah.
can tell you that as someone who, we were working our butts off because we were all like young, just graduated college, having a blast. I loved those 3 years besides the ride in the park, and just great group of friends that I met through there. And we went out all the time. I'm still friends with a lot of the people that I worked with there. But we were making $5.35 an hour, and we were working a lot of times 6 to almost 7 days a week, because that was a minimum wage back then. But
Yeah.
especially in the beginning, through like the first year, Universal was allowing all the overtime you wanted to work. So we would get there early. So there were a lot of days where I would get there like 6 a.m. and work till like 11 o'clock that night, just buying boats, because we were all broke. We just wanted all the money we could get our hands on.
Sure.
It's not the worst job in the world. I'm not slinging burgers. I'm driving the boat around in circles, and people are yelling and having a great time, and all that. So, I literally was working probably average 6 days a week, a lot of times 7. And I can tell you, I was there from the very first ride to the very last ride. That's the only thing that ever happened. Only person that ever went in the water. I can't speak to Jaws 2, the rebuilt, obviously, when I wasn't there. But I can tell you for the original ride, because I got into a huge YouTube flaming fight over it. This guy's telling me what happened, and I'm like, dude, I was the lead. I showed him pictures. I'm like, I was there. I worked that day. No, man, you don't know. You're lying. I just like, what do you want from me?
So quick question. Was it because I've seen like people on YouTube videos of the ride with, I assume it's the Jaws 2 where the shark and all that. So
Yeah.
was it a different layout, a different experience?
Yeah, the layout was the same. Parts of it, the whole beginning. So I'll walk you, and whoever's listening, I'll walk you through the ride real quick if you never were lucky enough to experience it. So,
Oh wow, that hurts.
Me too. Sorry, I'm on that boat too. Sorry.
Okay.
Jeff, I went to Universal twice, and both times the ride was broken.
Well, that was more like most times. The ride was broken. So
Every picture of me, here's me with King Kong, frowny face. Here's me with E.T., frowny face. So, yes.
that was the story.
I was trying to imagine that I'm on the ride. Explain
Yeah,
it.
those first 3 to 6 months were, I learned so well because I was a lead, so I was out front whenever there was angry guests and things. I was usually the one that had to walk out there and talk to them, placate them.
Oh,
And I tell you what, a back door to Kong will get you a long way with an angry guest, or back door to one of the rides.
I'm sure.
That's what fixed
That's what they call it, guest services. Yep.
I would just say, Kong lead is Jaws lead. And I'd say, got a customer, can you backdoor him? I'm going to send him in the back door. And we show them where the back door is. And they walk and they go right on the ride. And so that usually calms people down right away.
Oh,
Wow, interesting.
wish I'd known that instead of waiting all sad faced for an
what's
hour and a half
funny?
to get on the Kong ride.
I still go up all the time. I have, annual passes for me and my son. We go up every few months. And I had gone up by myself fairly recently, one of the last visits, and I went to Hagrid's, and it was closed and it was raining, but you could tell it was clearing up and it was going to stop. And having worked at that park and knowing the outer rides that are outdoors, I know how they kind of work with the weather. And so, they can see lightning strikes on their weather system. And so there's a mileage that it has to be outside of. And once the lightning is clear out of the area and the rain's gone, if it's an outdoor ride, then they'll start circling the ride. So if you're there waiting and they're telling everybody, don't wait in line, the ride's down, maybe like right after a rain, and you see the cars going around with nobody in them, then don't go anywhere. Just stand there and wait, because they're getting ready to turn it back on again to start up the ride.
Oh,
And so
wow. Interesting.
so I was talking to the guy at Hagrid. So it's my favorite ride in the park right now. And so I'm talking to the guy, and I was telling him about working there, and he was super interested. So we had a really cool conversation. And then he goes, the ride was getting ready to start back up, and he's like, "Come here with me." And he backdoored me to Hagrid's, put me in the very front motorcycle, and that ride, if you're in the front motorcycle, is insane compared to
That
any
is
other.
amazing.
So cool. So anyway, I was going to tell you the ride. So the premise of the ride is that they caught the shark. That's the one that's hanging out front. And so now Amity Boat Tours is doing their tours again. So come along with us in our pontoon boat, and we're going to take a nice tour around Amity Island. So they go through the queue, and the queue actually they created a whole radio station for Amity, like Amity Radio, where they had fake ads and reports.
WJWS?
That might, I think that's it. That's probably it. Yeah. And they would have they would pop in if you listen to that whole thing, which obviously we did 1,000 times. You'll hear little things like there'll be like a report, hey, and a strange dark circle was seen in the waters right off the beach yesterday by Bobby, or they'll mention the names of the people in the movie. And I was like that. King Kong did the same thing, but like as a TV station, like that was a cool. I think when you're building rides like that, it's so important to have a queue that keeps people's interest a little bit. So
while you're waiting
in line for an hour.
Yeah.
So you come in and you go through the queue and hear that, and then you get on the boat. And when you get on the boat, the driver tells you, no, I cannot remember my spiel. You would think I could, but you tell everybody, welcome aboard. We're getting ready for our tour. You may have seen this grenade launcher attached to my steering wheel. I don't want you to worry about it. We had a problem with the shark, so we were all equipped with these. But as you saw out front, they killed the shark. It's a beautiful day, so we're going to take our tour around Amity Bay. It's something probably pretty close to that. So then you start off, and again, this is like the original. So you start off, and there's a Quint's house and the orca model there, and you actually hear lines from the movie. This shark, swallow your whole, and it's like the whole line. It's like he is talking to the chief. So you actually hear that, and then we would say, "Oh, guys, don't worry about that. That's just Quint acting crazy again. Don't worry, the shark's not out," because it sounds like he's saying the shark's still out there. So then you come in around the first corner, and yep, there's the orca. Yeah, that's so you hear the music, the sound coming out of Quint's house right there, the gray one. It's so cool.
By the way, not to interrupt you, Jeff, but that picture on the left of you standing in the orca right there just completely blows it. That's awesome. Incredible.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It was the only way to get over there, I had to take a boat up and get over there. You have to jump over from the boat on the left is the that's one of the pontoon boat. So that was the only way to get over there. But I was the lead. I could go take a picture or two.
It's like I was the lead. I can do whatever I want.
So, in the other picture, if you look past the orca, there's a lighthouse. So that's kind of where the ride really begins. So as you come around that curve, around the lighthouse, then we have to scream out, "Oh my God! Base, boat 12 is down. Boat 12 is down." And so if you look to the left, there's the back half of one of the boats sinking, going straight down in the water. And this is really cool little trivia that I think they took it out after a while. But in the beginning, when Universal first opened, there was definitely a Universal versus Disney. It was on. Universal was like, we're not messing around. We're here to challenge,
Yeah.
So there was and we had a lot of Disney people that came and worked with us. They half of our ride and show people came from Disney. And they were so happy to leave. Trust me, they were much, much happier at Universal. So when the thing goes down, it sinks under the water, and then all these clothing and souvenirs float up to the top, and one of them was a pair of Mickey's ears, and they float up. I love that. But they had it in for a while, but they took it out. But I kind of like that. I like that bravado.
They did that for Jurassic Park. Remember Jurassic Park? Before they redid it, they had two little baby velociraptors fighting over a popcorn from Disney, or it was something like a popcorn container. So they were fighting over it on Jurassic Park.
No, we loved that. I love that they did that. And there was at the ending, I'll tell you what else I loved. And they made this, these rides, the main 6 are adult rides. Even Hanna-Barbera's more of a fun for I think for an adult than it is for a kid. And they weren't playing. They really geared this toward adults and built amazing rides. It's part of the reason Jaws closed, and we can talk about that after. But these were rides that had never been built before. They were all like prototypes. And then, they hired this engineering company. And I think, at least with Jaws, I think the problem was they didn't properly. So like in the attack scene, the shark comes up out of the water, just kind of real fast. Same thing in the boathouse too. And I think they kind of misjudged. This is purely what I've read. So this is purely somebody's opinion. But it makes sense. Yeah. There he is. That's the original.
There he is. The original one. Yeah.
So, all right. So let me go back to the ride and then I'll tell you about how the ride closed. So when you come around, you see the stuff float up, and then the first shark comes swimming around to your left, and everybody's like, "Ooh, the shark!" Ha, ha. And they're all like, "Hee hee hee!" And then the shark kind of comes around, and as you're going forward, it goes down under your boat, and they're all like, "Ah la la!" People, and then the whole boat goes ka-chunk, ka-chunk, like he went under and hit the boat, and that wakes people up. And then they're like, "Well, what the hell? This is a real ride!" Like completely unexpected. Because up until that point, it's super smooth. The ride it's a big metal boat. It's on a track. We can steer like about a foot of space total. And we did control the speed of it, but it was pretty much just put it here.
I was going to say, I would imagine, a track for safety purpose, something happened, the boat would not veer off course too much, right?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's like a cement gully, like, the LA River concrete thing. Just looks like that. The boat is on a big frame and wheels, and it just wheels on that concrete track. So so the boat does float on the water, and so that way we can actually turn the wheel and make it turn a little bit, but it's not going to go anywhere because it's on the track. So shark goes down, bumps the boat, people freak out. Another one comes up on the other side, and that's when we're like, "Oh my God, the shark gets back!" And I grab my rocket launcher and I shoot 2 rockets at the shark, and there's 2 water explosions in the corner right where I shoot, and they go off, boom, and the shark goes down to the left, and then we are kind of at the boathouse now. So we turn the wheel and we go, "Look, let's get in the boathouse. We'll of course be safe in there." And you try and play that one up to get like, "We'll be safe in here. No chance the shark comes in here." And I will say this for Universal, unlike what a lot of the people at Disney said, is that we couldn't go off script, but we could have fun with it. We like at Disney, they were kind of told to do it this way, only this way. Your hair is only cut this way, no facial hair, all this stuff.
Right.
And Universal was like, "We want you to have fun. We want to scare people. We want to toss them around. We want to have a good time." And it was nice. So, so you go into the boathouse and you have like one of those lights. Remember like the Ben Gardner scene when he's shining the light around? So it's supposed to be like that. Sure. So you're shining it around, and then there's boats hanging and creepy lighting. And then like slowly but surely, there's one boat that starts knocking, and then a wall that comes in, and other boats swinging around, and there's water splashes and stuff. And then as you get further down in the boathouse, it happens more. And then there's a smash in the wall, and then the shark comes up out of the water, chomping right next to the boat. Almost like if you've been on the one in LA, just it comes up but cooler looking, and snaps and splashes everybody, and everybody freaks out at that point. So you go, "Let's get out of here," and you punch it and head out into like the big area, the attack scene. And we're like, "Don't worry, everybody. We made it out of there. I got this. I still have 1 grenade left, and we're going to try and get Chief Brody on the phone." So you call Chief Brody, and then you hear like Chief Brody's voice is like, "We're trying to get out there." I can't remember all the lines. I remember the line was, "They'll be there in
10 minutes.
He'll be there in 10 minutes." And we're like, "We'll be shark bait in 10 minutes," or something like that. Something really corny like that. The people laugh. That's all that matters. So you go out into the big like lagoon area super slow. And this is when, if you're driving the boat, you start to get a little knack for connecting. And by connecting, it latches, the shark and the boat latch together. And that is what determines whether the ride's going to basically work or not. Because that's the one that never worked. Like if you ever went, there was a lot of people that went on that ride, and we went through that lagoon and just nothing happened. Just sailed right over.
Never saw the shark.
So as a driver, you can start to feel like that part where you're like, you want to go slow, but not too slow. Like really going to latch in. And if you get a good latch, it's the greatest feeling. And so you latch on. At that point, the shark bites onto the boat kind of and drags it, pitching and yawing and rolling through that whole attack scene. Originally, the pontoon, it looks like a real pontoon because they wanted the pontoon to like pop when the shark bit on it, like the pontoon. Yeah, that's the pontoon. So it was supposed to originally burst when he bit, but they couldn't get that to work. So that never happened. So shark grabs on like that, pulls you through, and then he finally lets us go. And we come around the final turn, and then there's another. I think that was the last picture you had up. Was the two sharks? I think one of them is like far end. So there's two fins that go by, and then there's the final one, which the shark comes right at you, kind of like it does in the newer Jaws ride, the fire one, when he comes to bite the big, whatever you call that. I'm having a brain fart. Bite the big electrical wire.
Electrical cable.
Electrical wire, the cable.
So he kind of comes at you just like that, and his mouth comes up out of the water like he's going to eat, and you shoot the grenade launcher, and then he goes down under the boat, and there's like a perfect like 3 seconds of silence, and you feel the boat, bump. And then you go, look over there. And on the other side of the boat is a huge bloody explosion with red blood going all over there and big chunks of shark meat flying around. And then up float like 3 or 4 like big pieces, like a piece of his jaw kind of floating. It was kind of gory, which was cool. Yeah. And so
I would have liked to have seen that.
Yeah, it was really cool. That was like the favorite part, and that's all gone. They don't have that. They didn't have that.
They didn't have it.
No. So then it blows up. Everybody's cheering and yelling, and I'm like, I got him, and everybody yells for you, and then you pull right into the exit, and people get off there. So that was the whole ride.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I've got a bunch of comments regarding the ride here. I'll pull up real quick.
Question for you, Jeff.
Sure.
Yeah, might even be a couple questions in here. So we got Judy Pankos, real good friend of the show here, says, we went in 1998. I was so excited. The kids couldn't go through too young. So I went alone with my husband and stayed with them. Insanely excited.
I'm glad, Judy, because, everyone that I've ever talked to that's been on the ride, it was like, oh, I want Jaws back. That was the greatest ride. Oh my God, that was amazing.
Yeah.
And so whenever I meet somebody that actually got to go on the original version, because the Jaws 2 version was there for a number of years. We were only there for 1 year. So there's not that big of, group of people that actually got to go on. And so I'm always like super happy for people that actually got to see the original, especially if the attack scene actually worked, because otherwise it's a much more boring ride. But
Sure.
It was, like I said, I was 23. It was so much fun working there. We had such a blast.
All right, we got a couple more in here. I love going through Quinn Shack in line. I studied every single aspect of it. It was immensely delightful.
Yeah, that if you've ever seen pictures of the front, the queue when we were actually working would be, I would probably average an hour and a half to 2.5 hours. And it was that whole thing was packed, and it would come out into the thing because it wasn't working that often. And so when people went to the park and they heard it was their work, and they were like, "Oh, let's go to Jaws," so they'd always have to come there.
Nice. All right, we got a couple questions in here. Jeff, this might be a dumb question, but were you ever scared on the ride?
The only time I might have been scared because we did not have any kind of. We weren't chained in. Now, we were in that little kind of cockpit area in the front of the boat, but sure. I wasn't attached to anything. So, and if you see that boat, now that I think about it, it's a little crazy when I think back, because in that attack scene, that boat really moved around when it latched and that shark drew you around. Now, granted, we're expecting it and we're holding on, but now that I think about it, we weren't. Well, not that we cared, but we weren't strapped in or anything. They may be.
Probably not.
So there was the possibility of you going overboard yourself then apparently.
Yes.
Never even thought about it. Oh my
Totally.
gosh.
And as I mentioned, like somebody, where was I? Oh, so on the Facebook group, somebody asked me, what was it? Somebody asked me, did you ever go swim in the ride like at night or like sneak into the pool and just swim? And I was like, you would never want to go in that. There was tons of hydraulic fluid because they were constantly, even when the ride was working, you could see the hydraulic fluid in the water. So they were always constantly working on it. So that was always there. I'll tell you, this is a funny little story. So because of that hydraulic oil, if you've ever seen them, they have these white squares called diapers. They throw in the water and they float around on top of the water and they soak up the oil.
They soak it up, correct?
Yeah. So that stuff was in there all the time. Those diapers were always floating around, white squares floating around. And like I said, and I was on that boat a whole lot. So it was like my whole life. And so literally one night I'm asleep and I woke up and I sat up and I was dreaming because, you know, when you're doing like driving that boat a gazillion times a week, that's going to be in my head. So you would have dreams about driving the boat. And it was one of the weirdest things where you're like, you feel that you're in the dream. It was like a lucid dream. Like it was very realistic. It took me a while to get out of it, but I sat up in bed and I looked around and I guess I had like t-shirts or something laying around on the carpet of the bedroom. And I'm like, and so I thought I was on the ride and I was looking for the throttle and I'm like, I can't make it go. And then finally, like 20 seconds later, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm in my bed. Like, that's how much we were working. That's how that ride got to me. Oh, that was funny.
Well, and getting back to the safety thing too, I would think, you know, you're driving the boat and that almost becomes secondary because you also want to be entertaining and you want to sell it. So you're acting yourself. So you're not thinking necessarily about, you know, about that in the movement. And I'm glad you woke up thinking you were driving a boat and you didn't wake up with diapers on, Jeff. That would have been weird.
I will never forget that though, because it was one of those things where you can't like come out of it. It's just like, I literally thought I was on the boat sitting there and freaked me out. I was looking at the picture of me, the original. So the one picture I sent of like the whole boat and me driving, that was the very first official Jaws boat. So we opened in May. It was May of 1990. And then that was like the soft opening. So basically when you walked in the park, you saw a sign that said, hey, most of this stuff probably ain't going to be working. So just let you know. But what they would do is give everybody that came in that wanted one a free ticket to come back. So kind of put it off that way. And that was nice. I like that they did that. And then I think June 9th, 7th was the 1990 was opening day. Oh, it was crazy.
Hey, Nate, do you see this comment?
Yeah, we were close.
We have another skipper. We have another skipper online. We have another skipper online.
Oh, nice.
Michael.
Okay.
His name's Michael. And I'm going to read it because it'll be a little bit faster. But it says, we loved hydraulic leaks because it made the water murky and you couldn't see the sharks before they popped up.
That is very true.
Yeah, that's Michael. Him.
Yeah, I mean, the idea was for the water not to be clear, but because that ride was never really finished, they were always working on it. It was always breaking down. They had to leave the water clear and couldn't, darken it. So if you're coming through, you can definitely see the machinery in the water before it's coming.
Right.
But to be honest, I don't think many people were looking at. I think the way the ride goes, like everything's happening kind of forward and to your right or forward and to your left. So I don't like you're looking for any movement. Like you're on that ride. I'm like, damn it, I'm on the Jaws ride. I want to see some sharks and I want to see some attacks, And so I never heard a complaint that somebody said like, oh yeah, you could see everything in the water. But I mean, you can see from the pictures, that's kind of the color that it was all the time. So you can see because they needed to go down there and work. Yeah.
Well, I would think the Nike.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Did you ever have a traumatized rider, a child or an old person, or
there was
somebody you had
kids? Yeah, they were fairly strict about 95 to 2012. Yeah, 7 years. That's a good run for that, right? So you had to be a certain height. Kids had to sit in between parents. I don't remember any glaring memories of it. I remember a lot of screaming kids. There was a lot of screaming adults too who got freaked out by it. There was probably like one a ride is somebody on there and they just freak out. And like I said, even though you can see if you really tried, that stuff pops out at you. The attack scene comes out of nowhere. The boathouse scene, they distract you with the boats swinging around and the lights, and then it just comes up. That scared the crap out of people. And then that first bump was the other big one. My pleasure.
Michael, I tell you what I used to do, because this is how much of a pain in the ass I am. Whenever we would go to Universal, because I live in South Florida, and we would go for Mardi Gras, and I'd always take my mom if I could, and I knew exactly where that damn shark was going to pop up. I've been on the second version so many times. I would sit her on the same side of the boat every single time and just scare the shit out of her. I really would. And she still remembers it. She's so mad at me for doing that.
I love it. I've been on that. Yeah, I've been on it a few times. And it's probably half like still the original script. There's a lot of the original lines still in there. I doubt they make you take acting classes now, but I'm sure.
We got another question for you here,
have to act on that.
Yeah.
How did they clean up in time for the next ride? So what all did you guys have to do when you were finishing up the current ride?
It was all automated. So the messiest part was the big bloody explosion at the end. So under the water, there's a big round, looks like a radar dish underneath the water, cup side up. And so all the pieces of meat are all there, plus the big pieces that come floating up are tethered. So they're on like a sensor. So there's sensors along the track. So the boat tells the ride what needs to happen. Does a shark need to swim? Or is it time for the attack scene? Whatever. So there's sensors all over everything. So all the pieces of meat would go really straight up, and then they'd pretty much fall down in that big net and be collected for the next one. And then the blood was just a water dye that dissipated super fast. I think there was in between rides, it was about, trying to think, must have been like 60 seconds. Wasn't that long. We were trying to crank people through there. But it reset really fast. And then all the other pieces, like, they do their thing. Some of them, if you ever look behind you on a ride, if you don't want to see it's in front of you, you'll see stuff resetting all the time, in rides, getting ready for the next one. So, everything else was just, it's all on sensors. Everything in the boathouse is on strings, so they can make them still somehow. But I think there's enough time that everything just kind of slows down.
And I would think, judging from the psyche of the movie, watching the movie, everything was done at water level. And so I would think being on that ride, you're not necessarily going to be trying to look into the water, or trying to cut through the glare. You're going to be looking across the horizon for anything breaking the surface. So
literally
that right there alone.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's like the pontoon boat is it's low in the water. So you're down, like you're almost sitting kind of under the water, you're at that level, which is good. Yeah. So I'll tell my, so my stalling game, that's a great question.
That must be another good one here. Yeah.
That is a very, so when your ride breaks down, and this was worse for me on King Kong, because Jaws, usually if the ride, like somebody had an e-stop or there was a fault that caused an e-stop on the ride and everything shut down, because there's all kinds of those safety things in place, then you're basically stuck till they reset the ride, and then you bring them in, and usually if you're in the middle of the ride, you'll just take them through again, make sure they get a full ride. I definitely would always do that for sure. I know how I would feel if it was me. So, but I had an amazing, really long joke. And maybe before I go today, I'll leave you with my amazing stalling joke, because King Kong, during the middle scene of the ride, is 30 feet off the ground. And Jaws, when it would break down, maybe because it broke down so much, we got good at it, but they could reset that ride really fast. So you weren't stuck out on the water really too long. I don't remember, I remember distinctly times on Kong being stuck 30 feet in the air and the ride is shut down because the monkey's arm went too far. And now you're just hanging there 30 feet off the ground with 40 people in the
wow.
dark going, okay. So it's a very clean, very funny joke that I stole from Pee Wee Herman. So I can do that at the end. But my stalling game was definitely on. You get good at it after a while. You have no choice between Jaws and Kong.
We got a question. How much did the Jaws ride cost?
I heard when we were working there, they said each ride was about $25 million, but that's $1990.
Wow.
Yeah, I heard it was like around like $30 million to do the entire thing. It's what I read anyway, but yeah.
That we heard that for the 6 main rides, some are a little more, a little less, but they averaged about 25 million. So Jaws, Earthquake, which is a very underrated ride, I think. Back to the Future, before it was The Simpsons. E.T., which will always still be there as long as it's been there since day one because it's Steven Spielberg's little baby. So he will not let that go. That's why it's still there. It would have been changed or something by now.
Good, because that's my nephew's favorite ride.
Oh, really? I still go on it. Every time I go to the park, my son and I go. My son's almost 18. We still go on that. I love it.
I don't care.
My favorite.
I don't care.
So
you have to say my name. I'm sorry.
Well, the best part is when you're flying over the city on the bike, there's so many little cool things down there in the city. Like every time you
find something down there, yeah.
There's like a little baseball stadium with like explosion on the screen and all kinds of stuff. I love that ride. When we were testing, so before the park opened, us, the original ride and show crew, we would go to different rides every day and basically ride the ride over and over and over. This is like after all our training's been done, we've been trained and retrained and pulled our bricks up off the pool and did our acting classes, everything trained. We still had like a couple months before the park opened. So this will explain why Jaws is the movie I have seen more times than any other movie, and it's not even close, because every day we'd have about half hour to like practice our spiel, but we could rattle it off by heart now. So they would be like, let me hear it. And you do it. And then 15 minutes, we're through everybody. And if there was not a ride, we were like the test guinea pigs. So if there was something to test, they'd call us over or walk, hey, come over to Back to the Future. We're going to run the ride. We need some warm bodies. So if not, we just went back in our training room and watched the movie. So we watched the movie every single day for like 3 months.
Wow.
Are you serious?
Knowing it inside and
Totally
out.
serious. We didn't have anything to do if there wasn't a ride to test. We were trained on every ride. We knew every ride how to operate, and we were just hanging out watching Jaws every day. So between that and like real life, I couldn't even tell you how many sites.
So here's a question: what happened to the shark after it closed?
I would love to know the answer to that question. I've tried looking around a little bit. I still keep in touch with 2 or 3 original drivers. Actually more than that, probably 4 or 5. And I've asked before, and nobody knows what happened to any of those. I mean, I'm sure the ones like the half sharks that are just kind of swimming through the water, they just get torn apart. But the attack scene, somebody's got to have that one because that was a big one. That one and the final scene are good size ones.
I came across in my adventures one of the half sharks. It was just from like half the mouth up or whatever out of the water. Somebody bought it and it's hanging upside down in a bar. I don't know if it's I don't know. Somebody bought that and it is the showpiece in the bar. It is one of the
I would love to see that. I would love that.
Yeah, I would too.
The original the one shot of me driving the boat back that was the first boat, and it was mostly reporters and like local news anchors. They were the first boat that got to go officially, and so that's like them and their families. Ride worked perfect. It was so exciting. That was on the front page of the Orlando Sentinel because that was opening day of the park. So I still have the original Orlando Sentinel newspaper. FYI, the bar, which bar?
The bar that they were just talking about.
The bar was shut down.
Oh, that's too bad.
That's a shame.
A little aside, there's a bar I went to a couple years ago in Southeast Texas. What's the party beach? Like Spring Break Beach?
Near Galveston?
Like kind of southwest of
yeah.
San Antonio, kind of
Yeah.
MTV's done stuff there. I can't remember. Anyway, it's like typical spring break beach for kind of that area of the country. They all go there. And there's a bar called Bernie's there. And it was owned by Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's. So
Weekend at Bernie's.
yeah. So, and I asked, and then I talked to the bartender, and she's like, yeah. I'm like, ha 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 ha. She's like, no, I'm serious. And she showed there's a picture of the guy in there, the actor that played it. That is Bernie. Anyway, so my favorite story was, of course, that I got to take Steven Spielberg on the ride. So
Now this one I want to hear.
yeah. So ride was down. Usually when the ride's down, like 3 or 4 of us will stay around, and one will do the console, and 3 of us will run boats with an engineer on them, so they can find out what's broken, see if they can do a quick fix, things like that. So we're just cycling boats. It's literally remember, no phones, no headphones, just driving in a circle with the big boat. And I pull up to the loading area, and the guy, manning the console is like, "Hold on, Jeff, don't go anywhere. They got some VIP that wants to go on the ride." I'm like, "Who is it? Who is it?" And they're like, "I don't know." I'm like, and I have to tell you, I graduated college communications, so I wanted to go radio, television, film. So we can talk about this later, but I worked at Cartoon Network for 3 years on a show called Cartoon Planet. Used to write radio advertising stuff. We can talk about that later too.
Where'd you go to school?
Towson University in Baltimore.
Know it well.
Yeah, of course.
Know it well.
I'm a Towson graduate.
Dwight Schultz from the A team, first graduate from their drama department.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I never knew that. I know we had Dave Maggett, football player.
Yeah.
A couple other ones.
Football player, for those of you who are wondering. Yes.
Yeah, he played for the Giants. He was our star running back at Towson. That was around when I was there too. Because I graduated Towson in '88. God makes me old.
Okay. And then down the street was York also.
Yep.
Managed. Yeah.
Yep.
I bet I threw you out. I bet I threw you and your rowdy friends out of my theater more than
You might have. We were around that area. We used to go to those Towson bars right on York Road, like the lacrosse one, the Crease, and Schaefer's and
Schaefer's
Charles,
Pub?
I DJ'd at Charles Village Pub for a few years.
No? And Christopher's? Yeah.
Christopher's. I used to live right up there, like just past there up the hill on the apartments. Lived there for a while. It changed like 17 times. It was a bar called Numbers at one point. Do you know about that one?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a crazy bar idea. So you go into the bar and there's little tables. So you sit at a table, and on all the tables is a phone. And then your table has a number, and there's like a that red ticker tape kind of news thing going by. And you would put in there like, "Hey, table 27, call table 18, like to talk to you." It was so funny. It didn't last very long. It's a different idea. That cracks me up. Yeah. So yeah.
I'm sorry, not to interrupt, but the interesting things always come to fruition on these shows when we have these guests on. And I think we just figured out why Mike went to Universal every time and never was able to get on the ride, because he threw you and all your buddies
There
out.
you go.
That's right.
He's like, "Here comes a guy that runs the movie theater that kicks us out. Shut that damn ride down. He's out of here."
I've been there.
Let's bend over backwards for Steven Spielberg.
Matter of fact, I saw Jaws was 79, right?
75.
75.
75.
Okay.
Jaws 2 is
I
78.
saw Jaws in the theater, the Liberty Road Theater in Randallstown.
Okay.
When I guess I'm born 66. I guess I was 9 years old because we saw it in the theater when it came out. My best friend at the time and I sat, and that movie, God, I mean, there's definitely no other movie that had more of a mental impact on me. I mean, it scarred me for the ocean for years. You never wanted to go more than mid-waist, even when I was 9-10 years old. My dad was really good. He's ex lifeguard in Ocean City, Maryland, actually. And so he was always holding on to me, but Ocean City, Maryland water is not like Florida water. You can't see the bottom from where you are.
No, it's very dingy. Yes.
Yeah, but we were either in the front or second row watching Jaws. We were 9 years old. It had to be because we saw it in the theater. And I will never forget the leg floating down. That one, that image is so burned in my head. I can't get that image ever out of my head.
And how real that looked. Yes.
Oh my!
It did
Well,
look
when
real.
you're 9 years old. Holy crap! When you're 9 years old, that movie was real. Even the shark at the end, where you can see the mouth like coming apart. That movie was so real at the end. Like when he pulls it down and gets bit, and you're just like, that's real stuff happening on that screen. That movie. I mean, I still love it. I think it's my favorite movie of all time. But that movie scarred me pretty good for a while.
So back to that Spielberg guy.
Oh yeah. So pull up. They
That's
say
still
there's a
pretty
VIP. Yeah, there's a VIP. I have so many. I love my Jaws story. So there's a VIP coming. Just hold the boat here. They'll be here in a minute. And I'm just like, all right, whatever. And first comes this woman, like 5'11", blonde, gorgeous, tiny tight black dress, comes running at me at the boat, and I'm like, all right, who is this? I don't recognize her. And she's like, hi, I'm so excited. I'm like, hi, help on. And so she gets on the boat, and she said, I am so excited to ride this. I can't believe I get to ride this. My name's something, I forget. She introduced her, but she didn't say who she was or anything. And I was like, all right. So more people were coming, and then I see Peter Alexander, who was one of the top executives. I don't know if he might have been president of Parks or something big with Universal. And then here comes Steven Spielberg, recognized him instantly, looked very Steven Spielberg-y, flannel shirt, bent kind of
Baseball
hat, scruffy beard, everything. Yeah, there he goes. But he didn't even look that dressed, like much less. So he's just coming over and he's like, they sit down. I was like, holy crap. I don't know what I can say here. So, so he sat down, and remember, I graduated radio, television, film. I met literally hundreds of celebrities at Universal. I was starstruck 2 or 3 times. One was Charlton Heston. I got to meet and talk to Charlton Heston. That was really cool.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I met, because the celebrities, as the leads of the rides, whenever anybody needed to get back door, we were the one to go meet them and take them through. So whenever there was a celebrity coming through that was on the VIP tour, they'd come talk to me, say, hey, I got somebody, come on up, I'll meet you at the thing, and take them on. So, while you're waiting a few minutes for the next car or vehicle to come in, you just start, they're all normal people. So I'm just like, hey, how you doing? You having fun today? Blah, blah, blah. You're going to love this ride. It's awesome. There was nobody I ever met that was not nice. And the nicest person I met was Joe Piscopo, of all people, for some reason.
Wow.
Really cool, nice, cool guy. He was so excited. They filmed a movie at Universal, an Arnold Sylvester Stallone movie, not Arnold, sorry. Sylvester Stallone movie called, God, I can't even remember the name. It was the one, he's like a gangster in the 20s.
Oscar.
They filmed that at Universal. And I was working at Kong, so we got to work kind of security, because that area right in front of what's now the Mummy was the original King Kong. That whole New York street was all set, was all dressed up as set. So we got to there, and I'll tell you a funny, this is true, so I'm not going to get in trouble, but Sylvester Stallone was late quite a few times onto the set, and his makeup trailer and stuff was like right off the set. Like you could see where he's coming from. And he would come out of the door with like 2 girls on his arms, strutting down the steps. Like, oh, Sly's an hour late again. So God thought it was true. So got to meet a lot of the celebrities, like the guy from Real Genius, the teacher that was also in Die Hard.
William Atherton.
Yeah, he was very, very
Ghostbusters. Yeah,
super nice guy. I took a bunch of them. I brought them up to Kong, back to them, and took them in. Really, really nice. I love him. He's really cool. So anyway, Spielberg comes this down. So of all those people I met, never, except for once or twice, got starstruck. But this is Steven Spielberg. He was like my god, because I wanted to get into film and radio production and do all this stuff, and that he was it for me. So that's the only time I was like, holy crap. And then they sit down, and she's all excited in the front seat, and Steven says, hey, nice to meet you. What's your name? He said, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to take me around the ride. I want you to do your whole spiel just the way you would do it on a normal ride. I want to look at things, and we're probably going to make some changes. So I want to look at the ride and see what I want to change. So this was probably when the planning for Jaws 2 came about, I would assume. So I'm like, okay. And then it's Steven Spielberg, and I have to do a good job because it's my top boss sitting right next to him. Not that I would get fired.
No pressure.
Yeah, but the pressure was doubled.
Was there? Yeah.
This lovely fun, giggly woman sitting right in front of me. So she's in the front row and they're in the back row. So it's very bizarre. And when I have to say, when you're driving the boat and you've got 40 screaming people on the boat and they're so excited and the shark's working and things are popping up, they scream and they yell and they clap and they have a blast. And it's very easy to get lost in the role. You know, you're saying stupid things like, don't worry, I've got this grenade launcher in case something happens, but we're not going to need that today. So it was stupid lines. So it's easy to do that because you can do it over the top when it's a bunch of screaming because they're kind of laughing with you, not at you. And so that's easy. But when it's Steven Spielberg in the back of your boat, and then you're about to start this, and there's one person who's really kind of looking forward to being on this ride, and she's sitting right behind you, and she happens to be a tall, beautiful blonde woman, and you're like, oh, crap. But so actually, my first thought was, all right, Jeff, it's just Steven Spielberg. He could make me a star like that, a snap. I'm like, if I do this honestly went through my head like an idiot. If I do this really, really well and impress him, boom, that could change my whole future. I literally had that thought. So then it didn't last very long. So then as I start driving up and I'm doing the lines and Quint's voice is playing and we come around and I'm doing the whole thing like, oh, look, blah, 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 pointing out the mouse ears and the shark's coming up. And I'm like, don't worry, you know, I'm grabbing my grenade launcher. And then there's like right about that point where I'm like, one person is enjoying this and the two of them are back there. They're just like this. They're not smiling. They're not being mean, but they're just like looking. And I'm sitting here like, I'll get him with the grenade launcher. Then it was like this instant dread that just went all down my body because I'm like, oh my God, this is a cringe fest 2000. I can't handle it. So it was fine. I went and did the whole ride. The attack scene worked, so we were able to latch on. He was able to see everything. When he got off, he was super, super nice. He's like, hey, thank you so much. Great job. Really appreciate it. So he was super nice. That was my Steven Spielberg brush with fame. And did not get fired. I don't think I got a raise either, but hey, what are you going to do?
Very nice.
Yeah.
So somebody asked a question regarding, let me see if I can kind of dig in here. I'll throw a couple comments and questions up. So I believe, I'm not sure if it was Tim or if it was Judy asked, where is it here? So they asked, so when Steven was, did he remark about the ride at all?
He was very intent on looking, because like I said, he said, I want to take a look and see what we want to change. Because at this point, this was kind of late in the year. Probably wasn't very long before they shut it all completely down. And so he was there to see what he was going to change. And that's why I'm it's got to assume that that's what led to, hey, maybe I'll do the Jaws 2 and we'll put some explosions here and we'll add this and some other things. And then they also fixed up the sharks. So I was getting into this earlier. The reason the ride finally shut down is, and so don't quote me. I know what happened because we were there with the engineers every day, but I'm not an engineer. So, but the force of, I don't think they estimated properly the force of the water on repeated. So that shark's a big thing. And when it lifts out of the water, it's taken a lot of that water with it. And it just put stress on the shark. And so that's why things got bent and out of place. I don't know what the major problem was with the attack, because that was about latching. Like we kept missing, like, I don't know if something was off there. I don't know. But you can Google, there was a huge lawsuit between Universal and the engineering company. Yeah. I don't know if you heard with that.
I read about that. There was a lot of a lawsuit over the number one, the ride breaking down constantly, and then, like you said, the logistics of it. So I did read where they were having problems, number one, because so what you're talking about with water, with displacement, water is extremely powerful and very hard to deal with. And I'm not an engineer. I have an automotive background. And I mean, you suck water up into an engine. You know, you're talking forged steel, and it will destroy everything in that engine. And so when you displace it, you almost get like a vacuum effect and those things. Yeah. And my understanding is that the motors, just to propel the shark, because you had to be, you wanted quick movements. You didn't want the, Yep. So was burning motors up because it could not move it through the water fast enough, with the engines that they were using. They kept having to kind of upgrade. Yeah.
Right. I don't want to say, like I'm like you. I'm not an engineer. I can drive that ride 100 times and see the force of the water on top of that shark
Mhm.
as it's lifting towards me, and you could just like feel the stress of it. And like you said, the attack scene and the last scene, they come out of that water pretty fast, especially the boathouse shark and the attack scene shark. They are like pop, and it was just too much stress. It was sad because it was such a great ride.
This is
Another
from the
question.
other skipper. Yeah.
The other skipper, wasn't it the turntable that was getting screwed up by that force?
The turntable. I'm not sure what you mean by turntable.
Maybe he can
Maybe
the
how the
shark,
boat had
you
turned.
know, elaborate.
Yeah.
You can see, like in some of the pictures, you can see the machinery underneath. I don't know if I sent you this one. Hold on.
You sent me a handful. The problem is I have to preload them. I could always post them after. I can't really. It's a little tough to bring them up live.
Oh, gotcha.
The only
Okay.
yeah.
So I sent you one, so you're more than welcome to post that with the others if you like. But it's
Sure.
a shot of the shark in the attack scene all the way out of the water, so you can see. So it's
cool.
yeah.
I do have something similar. I don't have that exact picture. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't interrupt.
Yeah, no, that's all right. So you can see that actually behind the shark, that is actually the track. So, like I said, there's like a concrete base, but the track could lift up through air. They would raise the track up. So, like you see, that
There it
shark
is.
is obviously 5 feet out of the water. So they can lift those tracks up so that they can work on the sharks. So you see the two on the right, those are basically the fin through the water sharks. They just kind of swim around and then dive down. And then the one on the left, that was the final scene. So that one is the one that comes at you, opens its mouth, and then goes down under the boat, and then the explosion. I wish I had a picture of the explosion, but that was on the other side of things. So like those tracks are heading right for where the boat would be.
That's cool.
Got another comment here. For attack shark, didn't it grab the boat and try to turn the boat?
Yeah, it did. It dragged it pitching, yawing, rolling through the water. And that's probably the first time I ever learned what pitch, yaw, and rolling were as we're working at those rides, because that's what every one of those ride-based things does.
And then I thought I read, and I wanted to ask you this because I was kind of hard for me to question anything because I didn't know anything about the ride. But we were talking about the attack shark and things. So there's two pictures there. The picture on the left, which is a little harder to see because it's smaller, so a bunch of the teeth are missing. It mentioned something to the extent of there being really teeth or really sharp teeth, and it kept having problems where it was puncturing part of the pontoon or the fake pontoon.
I can tell you the beginning one, I'm pretty sure the beginning one, they were rubber. I mean, unless I'm thinking just about the hanging shark out front, because those were definitely rubber. But I think the ones there were rubber as well. As a matter of fact, in the one where I'm actually driving the boat, you can see his mouth and there are no teeth, because as like every day they were adjusting, and sometimes the shark would literally hit the front of the boat and it would knock the teeth out. But I would remember if they were like hard teeth, because that would have done more damage. They didn't really hurt the boat. It's just they all fell out of his mouth. So they must have been rubber too, I'm thinking.
That shark needs adventure.
After a good day's ride. But you can see, like, you can kind of get an idea how wide and how big that piece of shark there is in the attack scene. And can kind of, that's why I say I can understand why the thing broke down, because that thing's solid, man. That is a big, it's even bigger than it looks in the water. And that thing
it's very realistic. It really does look like a great white. If you
the eyes actually rolled over white too when it attacked.
Wow. No kidding.
Yeah,
there was a ball in there, so the sensor would tell the ball to turn, so it went from black to white.
That's cool.
Somebody mentioned here that it was 32 feet in length.
It's very possible. That thing was freaking huge.
That's enormous. I mean the Jaws, the original shark was only 25. Yeah, so I mean that's you're talking like Jaws 3D size right there. Yeah.
Well, that'd be interesting to try and figure out how long the sharks were in the ride, because they can make it bigger. There's no reason not to. May as well just make it seem scarier to everybody that's on the ride. It was, man, people loved it when it worked. People just loved it.
So I would imagine for you, a good day was you had people half freaking out and screaming and carrying on, not people going, "Oh, there's the shark again." I would think, at least in my mind, that would have been a fun day for you. Like you're selling it, the ride is selling it, and they are just buying it hook, line, and sinker. Am I right?
It's Central Florida in the summer, man. When it's like July and August, it's hot out there. We had the captain's hat and this shirt, and then we had acid wash jean shorts. We were like one of the only people that actually got to wear shorts and work outside. So we were the very first crew. It was really funny. This is cheesy but funny. The first crew of Jaws was all guys, and it was kind of I'm 57, so it's more than half my life ago. We had a pretty good-looking group of guys, and they kind of put the best-looking guys on the Jaws ride, and then the girls, like if they would date a Jaws guy, that was like something to talk about. Oh, I'm dating a Jaws guy, and I know this because I dated a girl who worked at ET, and she would tell me what they would all say. And then, so shortly after that, then a couple of the girls were like, "Hey, this isn't fair," and we were like, "Yeah, it's not," but we were enjoying it while it lasted, our little boys club. And so there was two girls who I would call, I think Angela was first. So Angela Sparks was first. And then, Mary Beth. Oh, I hope she doesn't ever see this because I'm trying to remember Mary Beth.
Hey, it's going on YouTube. We make no promises.
I know, that's funny. She'll forgive me. We're still friends on Facebook and things. And I'll tell her she's one of, like, I love nothing more than a Renaissance Festival, the one in Maryland. I fly back home every year in September, October to go with my friends and hang there. To me, it's the best one in the country, and they have a pretty good one down here, actually, in Lauderdale.
So would they send all like the really short guys over to the ET ride? Is that what they did? I'm just curious.
Maybe Hanna-Barbera. That one doesn't go very high. They can stay kind of low.
One guy have a long finger.
So yeah, one guy had a long finger. I think ET was the first ride we ever got to ride. The first test ride we ever did. That was the first one I think that was finished. That's probably also the one that had the best track record for not breaking down. It breaks down very, very, very rarely. People love that ride. It was cool. So if you've ever been on it, they give you a card and take your name. So at the end of the ride, ET says goodbye, and then says everybody's name that's been scanned.
Yeah, mine was like Jane.
So when we were testing the ride, they wanted us to test that too, and so they said they were working on the database of names. They wanted to make sure they had everything. So they would say, everybody think of the craziest name that you can think of, like a name, not just make up letters, but think of a wild, crazy name, and then give them to that because we want to make sure it's in there. And if it's not, they get a beep so they can add that name. So I would always use like Wolfgang was my favorite. I would always, because I liked when you would say Wolfgang. We would always use crazy names doing that. So, and there was, I think they kind of brought it back a little bit. There used to be, and when I was there last time, a few months ago, I saw part of it is back. And that is when you're in the queue, Botanicus is up there on the rock, and he's got like a big globe, and there's like a video, like a 3D hologram kind of thing that plays, which back in 1990, that was a really cool thing. And so smoke comes up, and he pops up out of the rock, and he does, if you actually listen, because there's the intro video, Steven Spielberg tells you what the ride's about. You're going to E.T.'s home planet because it's all falling apart. And then if you listen to Botanicus, he tells you the story. So like some of the stuff you hear on that ride, a lot of people probably don't even know what the words are. He says he has two friends called Tickly Moot Moot and Magdon. So Botanicus is saying like, E.T., go to Tickly, heal, because he wants them to go heal everybody. So during the ride, you see Botanicus again, like when you first come to his planet. And that's what Botanicus says. He says, E.T., go to Tickly, hurry. And then he heals her. And then you go around the corner and there's the big mushroom. That's Magdon. And as you come around the corner, it lights up and there's a happy sound and all that stuff. And so if you listen carefully, he says, Magdon, sing. And that's when all the lights and stuff come and music come on. I'm trying to think if there's any cool things in there. There's a lot of cool things in the flyover area.
A couple comments I want to kind of flip up here. I know a lot of people are throwing comments in. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I'm trying to throw a couple in here and there. So we have
Not at all.
We have a hi there. I don't know if someone you might hi there from North Carolina.
Oh, North Carolina.
Michael Massey. I believe that's our other skipper. Is that
That's
right?
who it was. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Massey,
Okay.
yeah.
Hey,
Okay.
did Michael say what years he was there?
Well,
like,
this is
Charles
Michael
Bond or
Massey. Michael Massey is a friend of ours. He's a big Let's Talk Jaws Live guy. He's a friend of mine in North Carolina. But Michael, the other skipper, he did say on here earlier, but I can't find it.
I think he said. I know he said when it was open. I think it was the second one.
Yeah, like 95 to
second
98 or something like that. I think is what he said.
2012. 2012 is when it closed, and I tell you, I was so excited. I missed the first go round of the first show, but when the second one came around, I finally got to go to Universal in '93 for the first time.
Oh, nice!
And it took me, I would say, about a good half of the day to get the courage to take my picture next to the hanging shark with my ex-husband. Because it scared the crap out of me. Because for a Jaws fan, you go there and you see the boat ride, but at that time, I think they were still working on it. It had not opened up.
Yeah,
completely.
we opened later than most of the rides.
Later in the year. This was like around in June, and we went. But to see that hanging shark, and you're thinking, "Oh my God, all my dreams have come true." You're finally face to face with this thing. You've seen the movie and everything.
Yep.
But they caught me. They caught me looking over the fence, literally trying to get a sneak right where the church is and the cemetery is right there.
Yep.
Because the Wild West show was right next to it.
Yep.
So I was thinking, so I'm trying to take it. Yeah, Jane, your girl here got caught. I'm trying to take a sneak of the peak of the ride. And when I finally did go on it, I can compare it to actually being in the movie, and then when I actually went to Martha's Vineyard, it did not disappoint. That ride did not disappoint.
The thing that I'll say about
the movie,
Jaws and Kong were everybody's favorite. Now, Back to the Future was an amazing ride, which is basically the exact same ride as the Simpson ride, except Back to the Future instead of Simpsons. And everybody loved Hanna-Barbera, but Jaws was definitely the favorite. Everyone's loved that ride, but Jaws and Kong were the two big ones. When they were working, people left that park so freaking happy because they were things you had never ever seen before. Like even compared to the park in LA that had been open for a while. Like I remember going on that when I was like 15 years old. My buddy and I went out and you ride along the water and the guys in the boat out there. I remember that the whole Jaws ride out there. But nobody had ever seen rides, even at Disney. Like the closest thing was probably Star Tours, which I think is still there.
I think so. Yeah, last time I was there anyway.
So that was the closest thing. So, you're on a cable car 30 feet off the ground and there's a giant King Kong hanging on the bridge and he's swinging his arm at you. And then the helicopter shooting and there's like sounds going off everywhere. And the King Kong is roaring. And that was another one. So in that first scene with King Kong, that's another one that scared people, just like it did on Jaws. So up until that point, the tram just moves very slowly and in a straight line, doesn't swing or anything like that. So you go through like a New York street, there's some explosions, you see Kong silhouette, and then you come through, it's supposed to be like a fog there, and he's way up on the Washington, what's the New York bridge? The Brooklyn Bridge? I don't know if it's Brooklyn or the other one.
Brooklyn Bridge.
But yeah, so he's swinging his arm around and there's a helicopter shooting back and forth and you're yelling at the helicopter like stop it, you're gonna hit us, because you're going like right in front. And then you get right in front of Kong and he kind of turns and looks at you and his hand goes over the tram and everybody's like, oh, this is so cool, we're looking at Kong. And then he kind of brings his hand down and he doesn't actually touch the tram, but the tram drops like 3 feet. And everybody at that point, it was the same moment with Jaws, that first bump. People are like, oh crap, what was that? Were we supposed to move? Like nobody knows if that was part of the ride or not. So that was always fun
Yeah.
too.
Well, I have
So,
to
I
say
wanna say-
one thing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I want to say this
I have
girl's
to
name
say-
because I got her name wrong. Lisa Marie.
Did you?
That was the other girl. Lisa Marie Gabriel. I don't. In case she hears this, I want to make sure she hears my apology that I forgot her name from.
I want to say one thing from the very beginning, and what you have told us tonight with all the rides at Universal. Because I'm a Florida girl and I went there all the time. You have really, really brought back a lot of great memories for me. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm glad you kind of just fell in my lap last week when I saw your post. So thank you.
If people have questions, if people have questions and stuff and they send them to, feel free. We're friends on Facebook now, so you can just message me.
Yeah.
Happy to answer any questions about the ride. I loved it. I worked there 3 years and it was the best. So much fun. I mean, such a great experience.
Well, we appreciate it. And have a one-on-one with Spielberg.
Yes.
Hey, you got further than any of us have so far. So that's pretty
cool. Thank you, everybody. Do you want to hear my stall joke real quick? And then that'll take me out. So there's a guy and he's got no arms. It's a little bit long just because I needed to stall for time. So there's a guy and he's got no arms, but he needs a job like anybody else. So he looks in the paper and he sees an ad that says wanted young man to ring the bell in the church. And he's like, I think I can do this. So he goes to the church, knocks on the door with his head. Priest comes to the door and is like, yes, my son. He says, Father, I've come for the job. I want to ring the bell. And the father looks at him and he's like, but son, you've got no arms. I don't know that this is the job for you. And he says, Father, just take me up to the bell tower. I can show you that I can ring the bells. And he's like, all right. So they walk up. It's like 5 flights of stairs up the bell tower, big old bell there. And the priest is like, all right, let me see that you can ring it. You got to show me. And he goes, okay. So he takes a few steps back and he goes running at the bell, slams his face into the bell, and the bell goes bong. And the priest is like blown away. He's like, I can't believe this. And the guy's like, all right, can I have the job? And he says, if you want to do that every hour of the day, you're more than welcome. So he's like, all right. So he goes home. Then every hour of the day, he runs over to the church. He goes up his 5 flights of stairs on the hour, takes the steps back, goes running at the bell, slams his face into the bell, and the bell goes bong. So one day it's kind of late in the afternoon. So he's already rang the bell a lot of times that day. And now after a few months, the guy's face is starting to look like a pancake. He's smashing it in hard into a big old bell every hour. So he's a little tired, goes up his 5 stories, kind of half asleep. He takes his steps back. He goes running. He trips, goes past the bell, out the window, 5 stories out of the bell tower, down, creamed all over the ground. So a crowd of people gathered around, and a guy kind of cradles him in his arms, and a woman comes running over, and she's going, who is it? Who is it? Who fell from the bell tower? And the guy looks up at him and says, well, I don't know his name, but his face rings a bell. Ba-doom. That is my stuff. It worked every single time that I had to tell that joke. And I could stretch that out like really long if I had to.
I'd say,
my God.
If it was Kate Capshaw, you should have pointed her to the acting lessons.
Yes. We were kind of surmising that the blonde that was with Spielberg was Kate Capshaw.
No, it was. I never told you. It was his executive assistant because I talked to her. They were like talking amongst themselves. And I'm like, do you work with Steven? And I'm like, she's like, oh, I'm his personal assistant. I'm like, oh, okay, of course you are. So she was very sweet, very nice. She loved the ride. She was screaming the whole time. All right,
she loved it. Okay,
my pleasure.
Awesome. That was awesome. I mean, holy cow, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
My pleasure. You guys know where to find me, and I'd love to join.
Absolutely.
All right, absolutely. And if anyone has any questions, he is a member on the site here, guys. Feel free to message him. I'm sure he would love to fill you in on this. I know.
At Jeff Clay.
Yep, there we go. I know I've had a blast just sitting back and just kind of listening here and kind of putting some, connecting some dots together on us. So
it's fun
very much.
Reliving all. It's so many good. I really don't have any bad stories from that time. Even the one where the guy fell in the water, because thankfully it ended. Nobody got hurt. It was over really fast. So it was a great time.
You mean the people being killed wasn't a horrible moment in your life?
Yes, all the people that were mangled in the catapult of equipment and the water. That didn't dissipate as much as the blood red dye and the bloody scene. So that's done around for a while.
Thank you. This was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and everyone at home, thanks for joining in and tuning in and having fun with us here tonight. And we have a little thing that we do at the end of the show. So Jeff, we throw a little fin up.
Jeff,
A little
Oh, nice.
fin
I
up,
like it.
everyone. Thank you very much for your time tonight, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight.
All right,
Great,
guys.
great conversation. Great stories.
Thanks. Have a great night.
Take care. Yep.